Thoughts on the readings for March 18th. Leviticus 26, Psalms 137, 138, 139, Luke 9. Leviticus 26 tells of the Almighty's vengeance on those who disregard their obligations to His covenant. Verses 1 to 2 reinforce what had been said concerning idols, and the need to keep the Lord uppermost in the Israelites' minds by revering and keeping His Sabbaths. In verses 3 to 13, God's response to their faithfulness included many promises and blessings. Blessings of fruitfulness and peace. Blessings of protection, and of Yahweh dwelling among His children. Verses 13 to 39 tell of their sovereign's demand for faithfulness, and the promise that Israel's disobedience would bring punishments. These chastisements would include the bringing of plagues on His people, a powerlessness to stand before their enemies, wild beasts sent into the land, the nation being consumed by famine. This section concludes by an appeal to faithfully following Yahweh's covenant. For whether or not Israel obeyed the covenant, the land would continue with, or without, the nation. In peril if they considered their ways and prayed contritely to their Maker, He would, because of His own faithfulness to the covenant made to their forefather, Abraham, restore them to the promised land. Psalm 137 was a song about the lack of motivation to sing the songs of Zion, whilst Yahweh's people were exiles in Babylon. The other peoples, who dwelt by the river Chebar, demanded that the Jewish exiles sing to them from the songs of Zion. The Jewish exiles refused, since they were sad and yearned for their homeland. The psalm concludes by providing assurance to the exiles that the Lord would bring vengeance upon Israel's foes. Psalm 138 is a psalm of thanksgiving from the pen of David. The writer tells how he would extol his God before the rulers of Israel. He spoke of his bowing in reverence before the Lord in the house of worship. David reminds the hearers of the loving kindness and faithfulness of his sovereign, which were evident in God's deliverance of David in response to his plea. The psalmist anticipates Messiah's reign when all the kings of the earth will acknowledge and worship Zion's King. When the might of Yahweh's right hand would be exercised in the establishment of the kingdom of our Lord Jesus Christ, whose throne would be upheld by the loving kindness and the faithfulness of His Father. Psalm 139 is another wonderful psalm from David. The psalm principally revolves around three themes: the incomparable power of the Almighty, about the wisdom and care of the Creator for His children, and lastly that when we to a small degree can comprehend those two things, the Almighty Sovereign of the universe seeks to have a loving relationship with His reverential children. Verses 1 to 6 speak of our Maker's innate capacity for instantaneous universal understanding. This is called Yahweh's omniscience. Verses 7 to 12 describe the Lord's ability to be everywhere present, by His Spirit power, at the same time. This characteristic is referred to as God's omnipresence. Verses 13 to 18 describe our sovereign's might, as evidenced in the production of the embryo and its growth into a living, breathing, sentient person. In particular, the words in this section of the psalm apply to our Lord Jesus Christ, Messiah. In verses 17 to 18, David says that the contemplation of these matters overwhelms him. Finally, in verses 19 to 24, David makes a plea to his Almighty Maker to deal with his arrogant and evil foes, and for his God to search his thoughts, and know that His love for the Lord is vast and His endeavors to walk in righteousness are completely sincere. And because of this, David prays for his sovereign to lead him in the way everlasting. May these thoughts and that prayer and determination be ours also. Luke 9 tells of the commissioning of the 12, who were sent to Israel's lost sheep. They were seemingly unprepared, but took the gospel forth in faith. Note the similarity in the opening verses of chapters 8 and 9. 8 verse 1 compare 9 verses 1 and 2. We then read of Herod's perplexity on hearing the report of Jesus' ministry. The record of the feeding of the 5,000 was followed by the record of Jesus' prayer in solitude. This prayer was followed by Peter's confession that Jesus was the Christ of God. Jesus foretold of His sufferings, crucifixion, and resurrection. The disciple is exhorted that it is imperative to take up one's cross and follow Christ. The remaining segments of the chapter center on Elijah. The Transfiguration is recorded in verses 28 to 36, where Moses, representing the law, and Elijah the prophets are seen with our Lord in glory. The Father clearly showed that the surpassing, excellent glory was with His Son alone. A paralytic boy was cured by the Lord, when the 9 apostles who had not gone into the mount were frustrated by their inability to do so. Once more Jesus tells them of his coming suffering, which yet again fell on deaf ears, as they were preoccupied by self-importance. Incredibly, those who saw the transfiguration should have seen that their Lord alone was great, and they must be the servants of the coming King. The 12 forbade a man, not of their company, from healing, and they earn the Lord's rebuke. They who are not against us must be for us, said Jesus. Jesus was not received by a Samaritan village, as he was clearly intent on going to Jerusalem. James and John, rightly given the epithet, sons of thunder, sought to bring fire upon them as Elijah had done. Jesus rebuked them, alluding to the saving mission of the whisper of a voice found in Elisha. The chapter concluded with 3 would-be disciples. 1. One man who wanted to make discipleship a second priority. 2. The second man would follow when family responsibility was passed. This would always be a problem and left with those people not willing to embrace the challenges of following Christ. 3. The third man had business matters which required attention. Jesus told that man to learn the lesson of Elisha's call. See 1 Kings 19 verses 19 to 21. Penned by Warwick Rosser and his team. Produced by christadelphianvideo.org.